This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for Heart Mojo with Melinda Smith. Now, I have to tell all of Melinda's friends and followers out there, I don't know what is happening in our world, but I certainly have needed a lot of Heart Mojo in the
Me
last
too.
couple weeks. So I'm glad we're finally back together.
Yeah, and of course, as always, you and I seem to get these weird glitches, and we have one today. So our lovely guest, who got all dialed up for our show today, can't do the YouTube version. We'll just have to do audio, but it's all good, right, Karen?
Absolutely. And we'll put the audio on YouTube so you can listen to it wherever you want.
So let me talk a little bit about our guest. Her name is Karen Hadden, and I met her through another friend, and she has this very cool store in Menor called Helicopter Daughter, which is an interesting name. And she put this store together, trying to going through the challenge of finding balance in her life through all the things that she's been going through. So welcome, Karen, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Welcome, and thank you so much for having me on, for sure. And I am so sorry about the technical glitches. Technology is, I have a love-hate relationship with it, for sure. But yes, I'm the owner of the Helicopter Daughter, and I started this store really as a way to just help. When my parents got sick, my dad was diagnosed with metastatic prostate cancer, and my mom was struggling with an illness of her own. And so it's kind of like all worlds collided at the same time. And during the time, I had to take my dad to treatment, and I'm the kind of person who goes in 150%, into everything that I do, very passionate about things. And so I started to really just go research his issues, how best way to handle side effects from the treatment, what was with the prostate cancer. By the time he got diagnosed, it was in his bones, it was in his lungs, so it was a variety of different places. And so I started to research just every single thing about treatment, about cancer. But the problem is, when I go and do that 150%, I found that I was starting to struggle with just finding balance with my own life as well. So I started to, investigate and research ways to help him in a natural way, in combination with medication. So finding ways to treat his side effects and his treatments, and my mom's issues with natural ways, and have a balance between the medication route. And I found that it was just really challenging to do that. And so I would spend hours upon hours just trying to find that balance between the two. And, you'd research on different websites, and they'd all kind of just say the same things. Or I'd have to, click this link and another link and another link to get to a product that may or may not be in stock, and I'd have to order it online. And then as a caregiver, then you're ordering those items, and when it gets to you, it's not what you expected. And so now I've got the added burden of returning that item. And so it just created this very stressful, very disheartening situation. And then at the same time, I was starting to suffer caregiver burnout. So that was another way that I was trying to find ways to balance that out. So I was trying to find, okay, let's see if there's people I can talk to, or therapy that I can go and talk to. That was my first thought. And in the process of all of that, my mom passed away. And so when I would go to find a therapist, it was challenging because sometimes, the therapist I would talk to was young, so they hadn't experienced something like that. They hadn't experienced a loss, or maybe the person that I was talking to didn't have a close relationship like I did with my mom. So, it was really challenging for them to really understand my situation. So I found that I was starting to get more and more burned out. And one of the things that I vowed in the middle of all of this was being able to provide a space, such as the Helicopter Daughter, where people could find that balance, right? So if they're a caregiver, if there's somebody going through treatment, if there's somebody who has a loved one going through treatment that they're trying to find ways to help them, maybe take less of a Zofran or a medication, and more, kind of balance that with ginger tea, right? So now you still have to maybe take that medication, but you can add in peppermint oil or ginger tea, some type of way to kind of balance out the natural versus medication route. And then, of course, if you are a caregiver, ways to find self-care and wellness for you to take care of yourself by different measures that are natural, like reading books or getting better sleep and using certain natural, lotions and utilizing like lavender oil, for example. You can diffuse that. Lavender is known for its calming properties. So you can find ways to implement that into your daily routine that doesn't kind of make, because the other problem is implementing, everyone loves a spa day, right? I'd love to spend 3 hours at a spa to get my wellness back, but I can't do that when I'm a caregiver. So it's simple ways as well, trying to find simple ways to kind of add these little things into your life to help you kind of maintain your wellness and self-care while you're taking care of others as well. Does that make sense?
So Karen, you took all that knowledge that you were gaining while you were trying to help both of your parents and yourself, right?
Yes.
And you put that together in the store. So that helped you find balance because you were able to help other people.
Correct. And actually, what's funny is when I started out this store in September, so I actually, have what is kind of considered complicated grief. My grief just has still lingered on from my mom for sure, and then of course my papa, because so I had a lot of issues just when I started the store, still dealing with the grief from my parents, and it was funny because I felt like opening the store has healed a part of that was really hard, because I hadn't, I kind of gave up kind of talking to people, right? Kind of going the therapy route. I kind of gave up that way because I just couldn't find that balance. And so coming and doing the store, people come in and they share their stories, or they come in and they tell me about their loved ones, or and it was kind of this joke, because everyone that came in that first couple of months of me being open, we'd end up crying in the conversation, just because either they would bring up, that their loved one was undergoing treatment, and then that would lead us to talk about different things. And so you found that like I shared all of these wonderful stories with other people, and it helped me really find, again, balance, because it's been able to let me help other people find ways to help their loved ones, which is absolutely the most awesome thing. When someone comes in and says, my mom just started going through cancer treatments, what can I get her? And then we go through the store and we pick out a variety of different products, and I'll ask them a little bit about what their mom likes. Are they faith oriented? Are they someone who is a little sweary? Because as you know, there's some swear word items.
Just a little.
It's all about balance there,
right?
But I found that that's kind of healed my grief in a way that I don't think I would have had I not opened the store as well. So it's really helped me through other people helping me as well.
Well, that's kind of the whole thing with Heart Mojo. That's how it started. I was online doing my thing on social media to help myself go through that process of chemotherapy and all the side effects. And I thought, geez, while I do this, I got to help somebody else, because helping somebody else helped me. And so that's how we got to this point where Karen found me and convinced me to do this. And I think each show that we have, even though they might not all be health related, still it's a challenge in life, and it helps somebody get through whatever they're going through at that time.
And it does. And it's funny because you don't really, especially like September, October, November, it was kind of that whirlwind holiday season too. And I remember, just talking to, some of my friends too, where I was like, I don't, it's easy to turn that into, it's easy to forget, like, I wanted to make sure that there was more power to the store. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not just a gift shop that you're coming into. It's something where you can find those resources and be able to find that help that you might not necessarily find other places.
Well, and there's so much in there. It's a fabulous store. It's very calming from the minute
Yes.
you walk in the door, which I really like. And of course, I've spent just a little bit of money there recently, but I bought gifts. I bought gifts for friends and for family from there. And it's not necessarily because they're going through a cancer challenge or a health challenge. It's just a challenge in their
Right.
life, right?
Right.
So,
And
and
that's
the tea,
yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, it's funny. Someone who was in on Friday, she was in the store because there's counseling in the building as well, and so it's been such a wonderful kind of connection with the other businesses in there because with like for you example, that's how you ended up coming into my store was because of Patty, and then the counseling will bring like people will come up either while their loved one or someone is in counseling. But there was a lady on Friday that came in, just so sweet, and we were talking, and she was waiting for her daughter to get done with counseling and stuff, and she ended up leaving. But later on that evening, I got a notice on Square for a review, because when you use obviously checkout, it sends it out. And she described my store as a peaceful whimsy, which I actually thought was a really cool description because that's really what I want people to feel like they're going and my whole thing was always about like you went into your favorite aunt's house, right? Or that favorite relative that you used to visit, and you knew just as soon as you walked into their house, you were like calm, and it was just, you just wanted to kind of stay there and linger. That's the kind of environment that I want it to be. So.
Well, you have something for everybody. I started to say I got this fantastic tea there, which I've used. But you have tea, you have bath items or lotions, you have coffee mugs and little gnomes and bears and jewelry. You just have a nice variety for anybody to be able to find that perfect item, right? To help someone.
Yes, and we have I just started to build up a kids section because I thought I had read an article a couple of weeks ago regarding children are really struggling from COVID. I mean, a lot of us are all struggling from COVID, but children especially are just having a lot of issues. And so I wanted to make sure, that I wanted to add that into the store. And I still, when I look at those items, I always think, okay, when I was younger, I had anxiety issues. I had, some health issues as well. So when I pick the products, I kind of try to think, okay, well, what would I have really responded to? And then what's also been lovely has been that some of the counselors, they'll come up and shop, and I'll ask them, like, what are the young adults kind of, needing, like asking them advice as well. And so I was actually able to get something into the store just recently that was so cool called Wreck This Journal. And it's just this journal full of these different pages, but on each page, it gives you something to do, like wad up a piece of gum and wrap it into the paper, or throw this, across the room. Like it gives you all these little instructions on each page. So there's just some really fun items coming in for just children and young adults as well to kind of to help as well. So, but yeah, I do try to focus on mind, body, and spirit. So I try to focus on those 3 areas. So, puzzles, games, journals, but then there's, jewelry as well. And, right, like we had said, some sweary items. And then, but body, lotions. And I just started to carry some wonderful face cleansers and lotions. And then body lotions and bath bombs, shower steamers. So I do try to focus on that. And then, of course, made in the USA is one of my main purposes and goals with the products. And then definitely local always is super bonus for the products if I find them.
So how do you take a step from there to help people find more balance themselves? So you do some events at your location as well, right?
I do. And so that's what I've starting to focus on the last couple of weeks as well. We had a journaling event in March that was really wonderful. That was with a local company as well, One Ray Journal. So she had come in and did a journal event. And then the most recent event we had was actually a jewelry making event. It was with a local jewelry designer, Cornicia Designs. She came in and shared her story, her cancer journey story. So she had actually undergone an amazing cancer journey. And so she shared about her journey. And then she actually taught everyone how to make 2 bracelets. And they were these beautiful olive wood. The olive wood was directly from Jerusalem. So olive wood bead bracelets. And it was just really fun. We brought in just different, foods from local restaurants, and then everyone had a, a little private shopping experience afterwards. I'm currently putting together a Cancer Hates Tea event where I sell this book in the store called Cancer Hates Tea. And then I actually reached out to one of the tea companies in Cleveland that I carry, Storehouse Tea. And so she's going to be coming in, and we're going to just kind of do an event all about pulling out different teas and how, even drinking 3 to 5 cups of tea a day can be a very proactive, very preventative measure for just helping you, be healthier overall, but still giving you that balance, right? Drinking that wonderful, natural, healthy way to calm yourself down, relax yourself, and then get, wonderful, antioxidants and healing herbs into your body. So yeah, so we've got that one coming up in June, and then just a couple other ones that I'm still trying to kind of put down on paper. I have all these events stuck in my head. I'm just trying to put them down on paper. So
that's its own challenge all by itself.
I know. Oh my gosh. I know.
Trying to figure out the directions and the things you want to add.
Well, yeah. And then plus also trying to make sure they tie into finding that balance, right? So finding ways to not only, because I want it to be a place where it's self-care and wellness for everybody, right? But then also creating those events for, people to help with cancer and stuff like that. But, like fun events, like just there's a one coming up next week, actually, that I'm planning for. That's a teacup succulent that we're just going to be putting together little teacup succulent planters. But I ordered food from, Sisters Tea. So it's going to be this cute little like tea party, basically. And then we're going to make these cute little teacup succulents. So not all of them are always going to be focused on, cancer or something like that, but just definitely something fun that can just get our minds off things and just come together and have some fun. So
laughing and doing fun things is important, just as important as the other items.
I agree. Yes.
And healing before we actually need it. If we think about that. If people come out to your store, maybe they, aren't going through a medical journey or any form of grief, but just knowing that you're there and there's this availability, we can start taking care of ourselves early on.
Exactly. And, that's the other thing too, is right. Like someone, so one of the things, and I know we have another event coming up. There's a relaxation event coming up on May 15th. And it's funny because I've been trying to test out different, just ways to relax. I mean, that appeals to everyone. But one of the things that I've really started to enjoy, and it's the simplest thing, but I swear it has helped me sleep so much more soundly. I put on this lavender lotion that I sell. It's this whipped lotion. And every night before bed, I grabbed a book, and so I'm a bookstore as well. I'm an indie bookstore. So and one of my favorite genres is cozy mysteries, because, for me, that's, the psychological thrillers. I don't want to deal with those. And the problem is I'm not going to read a psychological thriller before I go to bed. So, and then I don't want to read a self-help book before I go to bed, because then I'm writing down my to-do list before I go to bed based on the self-help. So I found just reading this cozy mystery, this one's app is based out of, Sanibel, Florida, which I love Florida. So I was like, it brings me into this whole area of just being on a beach, right? Going, I know everywhere that they talk about in the book. So it's almost like I'm there. And then I've got this wonderful lavender lotion that I put on my hands, I put on my neck. And then for me, I feel like I'm really sleeping more soundly because one, the book is really helping me kind of just get my mind off things. And then the lavender, of course, is full of calming, relaxing properties. So it's a wonderful item to put on anywhere when you're going to bed, just to kind of relax you. And I swear I've done it for 2 weeks now straight. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just feel like I wake up just more sound, that I've had a sounder sleep. So
It's probably the book as well as the lavender, because they tell you should be turning off your media and the blue light and all of that. So if you're reading, it's more relaxing. I used to read every night before I went to bed, and it's easy to get out of that habit, right?
yeah.
We're all rushing every day, but that self-care really is important. Speaking of self-care, you had your own health issues, right, through this process?
I did. So, that's where I definitely relate and sympathize and am passionate about caregiving, simply because when I got to the point where, that caregiver burnout definitely took a hold of me, and I ended up getting vestibular disorder, which a lot of people are like, what's that? But it's basically, I get off balance, I get vertigo. It's 3 different kind of things that I've been told that it kind of diagnosed with. And one is like a vestibular migraine. And then the other one is a cervicogenic dizziness, which is really a neck related dizziness. And then the other one is a hypofunction. And apparently how it all started was when I ended up getting a virus that attacked my inner ear. And, the problem is, it's one of those weird kind of disorders that they can't really pinpoint how necessarily you get it. There's all these theories. But usually, if you join any kind of group related to it and you read other people's stories, you'll find that it usually attacks when you've got low immune system, right? In almost all of the cases that I've ever talked with other people or shared was low immune system. They were burning, the candle at both ends, not eating right, no sleep at all, which, of course was going on because of the care that I was doing for my dad. And I just wasn't paying attention to taking care of myself. And so I ended up getting this inner ear virus that actually just started out as extreme nausea, and I could barely walk in a straight line because it attacks your inner ear. And one of the doctors kind of explained it as, if you think of a plane, and a plane, like the wing goes down on a plane, the plane can't fly, right? It starts to lean to one side or to the left. And so that's what happened with mine. It attacked my inner ear on the left side. And so my brain has to retrain itself to understand balance. So just like little kids, when you're little and you're learning how to walk, the more that you walk, your brain kind of solidifies that pathway and knows that, pathway to balance. It knows like that signal, and it establishes that, kind of signal. But with the virus, when it occurs and it's called vestibular neuritis or labyrinthitis too, it severs that pathway or just kind of damages it. And so then through therapy and other forms of treatment, you just have to retrain your brain. And with mine, it took 6 months to do that. But in the meantime, you get extreme nausea, you have a difficult time walking, you get nystagmus, which is that kind of shaking back and forth of your eyes. So they jar back and forth kind of thing. And then the most oddest sensation is that if I were sitting here, talking to you, I would be still, but my brain would feel as if I was on a rocking boat, like I was just rocking back and forth really quick. So I would be talking to you, but I would have to be fighting in my brain saying, I'm not rocking, because my brain is saying, oh, no, you're rocking. And it's like, no, I'm not. So
it's like someone having too much to drink and spinning a little bit, but
it really
you can't
is
tell.
like, yes. And honestly, what's sad is that you don't, yes, it does feel But you missed the part where, when you used to drink and get that buzz. Yeah, you don't have that with this one. It's
No
like,
buzz, just the side
no
effect.
buzz. Right, like who wants all of that without the buzz? It's like I want the buzz with it. But yeah, then after like 6 months, it finally did, like, it was this weird kind of switch that was like, oh my gosh, I think it actually resolved itself. But then the next day I ended up getting some other issues that are kind of a direct symptom of, it's a relationship to it. So I ended up getting then the BPPV, which a lot of people get, which is those crystals get loose in your ear. And most people over 60 will suffer from that. I'm not 60 yet. And I'm like, well, this sucks. But that one's actually a little bit more treatable because they do have maneuvers out there. And I'm sure people have heard of like the Epley maneuver, that they can maneuver those crystals into your inner ear and kind of get them back stabilized so you don't have those. And then the vestibular migraine goes hand in hand as well.
So you were going through that during the time you were taking care of your dad?
Yes.
Wow.
So, yes, it was definitely a struggle for sure, because, there were days where, and a part of it's a good thing because, when it comes to that vestibular, the issues, they actually deter you from sitting down. Because a lot of people, when they get this, they're so debilitated that they just sit. And that's the thing, I would have comfort if I was just laying down. I mean, the minute I stood up, it was like crap. And you just get all those sensations occurring. So your immediate reaction is you just want to lay down. And, but that's actually the worst thing you can do, because your brain isn't, your brain can actually fix it, but you have to get up and move. And so in some ways it was good, simply because I still had to take care of things with my dad, right? I still had to make sure that that house was running the way it needed to be run, that, all the medications were still getting done, and all of his food was getting done, and, everything else that was related to his healthcare and the doctors and all of that was still needing to get done. So I had to get up and force myself.
It gave you something to focus on.
Yes, but yeah, it was definitely something that I still have. That happened at the end of 2017, and so I've had it for 5 years.
Wow.
But
Wow.
it's one of those
you would
things.
never know. When I saw you in the store
No.
and met you in the store, you would never know.
No, you don't, because I mean, and it's one of those weird, and a lot of chronic illnesses are like that, right? That
Right.
people look perfectly healthy, and
Oh yeah.
yes, but there's days, but I've learned to manage it, and I definitely, if I do have an episode where it's really, because the weather affects it, hormones affect it, eating too much chocolate can affect it. So there's ways to certainly minimize it, but yeah. So I just knock on wood, and just hope for the best every day.
So your store helps you now. I mean, it helped you kind of go out to help other people after what you've gone through with your parents, but I think it also helps you keep yourself focused and not worried about any health issues you have at this moment, right? Because
Yes.
you're giving back to other people.
Yes. And that's exactly it. I mean, and it's funny because there have been several times over the past couple of months where, I've gone into the store in the morning knowing I'm having a bad day. There's nausea. So I'm, putting peppermint oil on my stomach. I'm, drinking ginger tea. And, and then those seem to be the days that, someone comes in and, and comes in and says, I need help with picking out a basket for someone I love, or, I lost my mom. And just that conversation is enough to keep my mind off what's going on, right? And just kind of pushing through it. And that's the good thing, is that, if I push through some of the issues that I have, at the end of the day, then I'm like, oh, okay, I made it through the day, right? And it was really because I was able to take my mind off of what was going on with me, which is kind of true in the sense that, the best way to make yourself feel better is to help other people. And I truly do believe that, because then I'm not sitting there wallowing in my poor me, because I can definitely do that with the rest, with with great ease, I can sit there and do that. But just helping other people, it's amazing how it just makes you feel amazing afterwards, because you're like, okay, you know, that person, and oh my gosh, and that person that gets that present together. I remember the one girl who did it in December. She was so excited when we had put this basket together. It just, you know, and you're just so happy for her because she's so happy to be giving that to somebody that she loves and cares about. So.
Well, I have several. I've given one of your gifts out, or maybe two. And then, you know, I bought one for my mom, which we can't talk about. Not that she watches podcasts, because she really is not techno savvy, but, you know, I found a really cool thing that I hope will fill the need that she has to want to have a pet, right? Remember, we
Yes.
talked about that.
Yes, correct. Yes.
The other good thing I found was the books that she had. I picked up for my industry. For those of you who may not have listened before, I work in the senior care industry currently, and so I have to deal with a lot of grief with family members, also with the individual, the loss of their freedom of living in their own home or driving their car. And so you had a great book on dealing with grief, and then a book on dealing on dementia, which is a big part of my industry as well. So I was really grateful to find those, because it gives me that little extra that I can, not that I do understand my grandmother had Alzheimer's, and because I work with families every day, but this just gave me a little bit more education. And so if someone wants to educate themselves on different areas like that, you know, you have that available as well.
Yes. Well, and it's, you know, and that's the other part too, is I took care of my grandpa who had Alzheimer's, right? So that's the other part to that, you know, when I first got the store up, you know, a couple months into it, I was like, wait a second, you know, what resources did I use for him? And I know, like, one of the books that I sell, I just got it in a couple weeks ago, was that 36-hour week. And that's all about taking care of, you know, your parents and stuff, and with Alzheimer's and dementia. And I ordered a couple of other, there's a couple of other books in there too, that's just wonderful for people, because that is such a debilitating disease, to watch your loved one go through that and to lose themselves. And, you know, it's just so heart-wrenching. And I really wanted to make sure that definitely for loved ones and, you know, caregivers as well, that they have, you know, at least some resources as well. So that's a whole other area that I'm trying to make sure that I have things available as well, because of that connection to my grandfather. So yeah. Well, you know, yeah, never mind. Sorry. I got off track for a second.
That's okay. So you brought this store together to help yourself find your balance. Do you have suggestions? Not everybody's going to be able to start a store. Do you have suggestions to people who were in similar situations? What have you learned from the people coming into, you know, telling their stories to you?
Well, I definitely do not suggest starting a store, because honestly, that was like, especially in the beginning, I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I do? I know. So that certainly, you know, obviously has gotten way better than it was when I first started. It's certainly turned in, now I'm enjoying it, versus, oh my gosh, I forgot to do this. I think for me, you know, that's something that I always struggle with, because, you know, it's different for everybody that goes through something like this. And I think it depends also on the relationship that person has with their loved one, or not even in relation to somebody who's going through cancer or illness, right? So if you're just looking at self-care and wellness, right, you're somebody that's maybe, you know, like, I always think of my best friend. She you know, she has so many balls in the air, right? She's constantly juggling her children's events and taking our kids here and taking our kids there, and getting, you know, food together and doing dinner and working as well. So not only for people who are, so if we just look at that group, right, and go, okay, where can those kind of people help find balance? And for me, I think that's one of those things like, and I even thought of it when I was with the lotion and the book thing, right? I'm like, even as a mom, I think if you want to find that balance and put those little things into place, that's what you have to focus on. Little things that just help you either laugh, right? Or make you smile during the day, something to kind of just jolt you out of whatever high stress thing that's going on. So certainly we all know that breathing is an amazing thing, right? So there's so many different breathing ways to breathe and relax yourself. But then make sure that you find a fun mug or tea or something that can kind of just let you go and be by yourself for 10 minutes. Because I think everyone can find, 10 minutes somewhere. I mean, I've even thought of like, just go in the bathroom. I mean, if you're at work, it's like, just go in the bathroom in a stall and like, read a book or something. Nobody's going to go in there and look for you. So,
When my kids were little, I'd hide in the pantry.
right. I mean, like,
I would go in the pantry with a magazine for 10 minutes.
right. So to me, it's like, I would find those ways to do that just because at least you're alone by yourself. But I think at night, obviously, after the kids have gone to bed, or I think at nighttime is one of the better ways that I think you're going to find those ways to take care of yourself. So maybe that's investing in just a wonderful face cleansing routine or a bath, right? So I have those amazing different bath bombs, or even a shower. If you're someone who takes a shower at night, getting those shower steamers in place and doing that, or just maybe, something that just takes your mind off of what's going on in the crazy world that you've got going on. I think that's the only way. You've got to make that mindful attempt to do that, because nobody can do it for you. I can certainly tell you all these different things, but if you don't take the time to carve that out, it's not going to happen. Right. So I think that's one of the ways that if you're looking for ways to either relax or de-stress or find that balance, making sure that you carve out that time for yourself. And that doesn't need to be, a 2-hour, event somewhere for, every week. It could just be that 10-minute moment. Like, and that's what I think of, when I grab my mom's coffee mug that I have that says Diane on it, every morning I grab that. And when I get that to get my tea or my coffee, I look at that and I smile. And I feel like that's a way for me to just, put happiness into my life or joy into my life that, I might not have gotten if I just grabbed a plain mug off of the shelf.
Well, and it's also a reminder, of your mom, and your mom that makes you smile.
It does.
So I think that's really an important point. It's something little, like you said, but it has big power. It has a lot of power for you.
Yes.
And I think most of us could find that. Don't you think so, Karen?
Absolutely.
Yes, I love how you say that. Yes, I agree too.
So I wanted you on the show because when I went into the store, we probably talked at least 30 to 45 minutes going over the story and how you came there. And I thought it was important for anyone that watches Heart Mojo to know how you handled your grief and your caregiving and the stress of that, and how you got some balance for yourself. But then you provide them an opportunity by visiting your store. So can you give us a little bit more information about your store and how someone listening can find you?
So I am located in the Matchworks building.
Which is really cool, everybody. Very cool building.
Yes, it's actually one of the historical, I always say it's the historical Matchworks building. If you're from Mentor or in the Lake County area, you pretty much know about the Matchworks building. If you are from my generation or older, you would have gone there because it was like the one place that had the like fancy restaurant in it, called the Perfect Match. So most people know it by that. But it's such a beautiful building. It's this old match building that they used to make matches in, obviously. And then I'm actually located on the second floor, and I'm in suite 285. I'm right about 2 doors down from the elevator, but just in a really beautiful space. It's one of those buildings that the moment you walk into it, it gives you a peaceful calmness anyways.
It does. It's all brick. There's a train that goes behind it. So every so often you hear the train.
Yes.
You've got water as you walk in. It's very calming. I want to have like an event there because it's so pretty. It really is.
And people actually do have events in the atrium space. Like right now, with mine, because I don't have room in my current space, I utilize the atrium for my event. So we, my husband, hangs, lights from the rafters or whatever, and then, we style it in a way that it makes it very cozy as well. But yeah, it's just a beautiful building. And it's located right off of like 615 by Gatsby's as well.
Do you have a website yet? Do you have a website for your store?
I do. So my website is www.thehelicopterdaughter.com. And then of course, Facebook and Instagram is the same name, The Helicopter Daughter. So that's easy as well. I certainly want to try and do different videos. I want to, do just different ways to add little things and do the videos about them. Like gardening is one of my passions as well. So, so hopefully
you'll be expanding your website.
Yeah, or like YouTube or something like that. So we'll see. So,
okay. Well, one last question before we go. How did you come up with the name Helicopter Daughter? Because it's kind of an odd name for a store.
Okay, well, I have two things to say about that because something happened over at the Easter Vigil that I attended. So it's kind of ties into this, which I thought was funny. But the Helicopter Daughter was really, so, when I was looking for a name for my business, it took me like months of just kind of going through different names. And whenever I thought of things like, the iris flower, it's like you think about all these different names and none of them would really kind of touch home to what I really was trying to portray. And so it reminded, one day I was driving and this one incident popped up in my memory, and it was a moment where I was in the hospital with my dad. The pain from his cancer had come back, so he ended up back in the hospital. And so he was battling with the doctors at the time because he was a Navy guy and he liked to battle with everybody. And so there was like, seriously, I think there were like 3 or 4 doctors in the room with him, all from different kind of areas that they were discussing different situations and scenarios with him. And I was kind of across the room and I was just kind of letting them talk. But then, I could tell my papa was starting to get just anxious about all of it. I knew that he was going to start probably dropping F-bombs any minute now at the doctor. So you could tell that their conversations were just getting more intense. And so in the middle of it, I don't know what it was. I can't even remember what I answered, but I remember I like blurted out, because remember, 150% I'm passionate. I jump in, right? So for me, I can, at the time, I could name every medical term that was going on with my papa. So I'm sure I blurted out some kind of medical procedure or solution, and all of them, including my papa, like all I could remember was this group of people just slowly turning at me and staring at me because they're like, who are you? Like they forgot I was in the room. And so they turned and I looked at them and I just kind of laughed because I, suddenly felt them staring at me. And I just kind of laughed and blurted out, don't worry about me. I'm just a helicopter daughter. And it was just funny because they all kind of just smiled, right? You could tell that they just kind of relaxed. My papa smiled because he knew how I was with every doctor. And so he laughs, and then, the doctors kind of just, kind of calm down. And that's what I remembered one day when I was driving, and I was just like, oh my gosh, that was my aha moment.
That was your moment of inspiration.
Yes.
Well, that's a great story because you never know, like Heart Mojo, you never know where those things are going to come from.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
Well, Karen, thank you so much for being on the show today. We really appreciate your time. I wish we could have seen your face, but maybe we'll do some sort of event from your location and we'll get to have you on the show. How's that?
Oh my gosh, that would be awesome. Absolutely. I would love it if you guys would come. That would be wonderful for sure. And thank you so much for having me on here and telling my story. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Everybody have a great day. Stay safe and try to stay warm if you're in Northeast Ohio.
Well, at least until the weekend when it's going to be 80.
Hey, I would like that.
I'll take it.
All right, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.